Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley Ariana, joined by the wonderful Tom Jensen, and we have breaking 49er news that came out about 10 minutes right before we started this live. 49ers are already signing DNs, trying to prepare for the adjustments that they're going to make with the loss of Nick Bosa. I would not say that this is an adjustment. I would say it's a move that will help them maybe move around guys on their own roster or allow them to have some depth. But the 49ers signed William Bradley King to their practice squad as of right now. But how do you feel about this? Did you hear about this before I just sprung it on you? Because it did just happen.
I just read it. He played 4 games for Washington. He's 6'4", 257, 27 years old. Had half a sack and 5 tackles in 4 games for Washington. 7th-round pick from Baylor, had 3.5 sacks there. But basically, it's adding a guy so that you can get the necessary depth of rotation. They needed to add an edge, so
yes.
I'm not expecting anything great. I mean, this is tossing a bucket of water on a 3-alarm fire. It's not going to do a lot, but it's what they have to do for now, and we have to be patient in our expectations.
There's obviously bigger trade rumors that you and I are going to get into.
Yeah.
But before we get into, I feel like that's enough on him. Like I said, I don't think he's going to be a starting piece for the 49ers team, but I understand why they had to make it, just filling in a roster spot. Before we get into trade rumors, I would just like to ask you, because you and I haven't talked since the news came out, how much of a loss is losing Nick Bosa to this team? Like, what does this do to the expectations of the 49ers? I mean, they've won 3-0. They haven't looked like a stellar team, especially on offense. Really, the reason they're 3-0 is largely due, at least in the first 2 games, to changing plays or saving plays at the end of the game by Nick Bosa himself. Last week, you would say Upton Stout was the guy who made that. Not trying to discount that Bryce Huff and Michael Williams have helped in those, but Bosa has really came through specifically at the end of games. I think coming into this season, a lot of people anticipated that the defense was going to be slow to start, but we haven't seen that in 3 games. In 3 games, we've seen the defense on fire, and they are the difference. Like, if you look at the 2024 49ers team and the 2025 49ers team, the offense still can't score in the red zone. They're still getting stuck on 3rd down. They're struggling to get first downs. Running the ball is difficult, and that's even with Christian McCaffrey back. We can anticipate that with additions coming back on offense that the offense improves. But for right now, the offensive woes of last year have carried through. The difference, the reason they are winning games is because of their defense. And Nick Bosa is obviously a large part of that. So just how are the 49ers going to feel this loss? What was kind of your reaction to this news? Because right away after the game, it wasn't clear that this is what was going to happen. They were more optimistic.
Right. We had to wait until Monday to find out it was a torn ACL.
Yeah.
He is out for the year. The impact is huge. He's one of the team leaders, if only by example, of what he can do. He won the Seattle game. He did.
Yeah.
And so that tells you the impact right there. He's capable of winning games on his own. But the impact is dramatic. He's a guy that an offensive coordinator has to prepare for in his game plan. The offensive line has to be preoccupied with how do we deal with Bosa.
Yeah.
Now you don't. Now you used to have to double team Bosa or at least have a back behind your offensive line to deal with him. Now you don't. And so where can they now deploy their resources that makes it a lot harder for the Niners to get in there and get at the quarterback? Because Bosa in the Arizona game, when he was on the field, their pressure rate was 45.5%. When he wasn't on the field, it was 28. That tells you the impact of Bosa. So, yeah, there's a lot that they have to get done. And I wrote about that this week of what I think their options are and trade and tactics, and we can go over that.
Even when, I opened up kind of saying we've been impressed by this defensive effort and output so far, but a big part of Michael looking, so much, he's he's talent. He has talent, but he's a young prospect. Sure. And the reason he's actually been able to shine maybe a little quicker than people have anticipated is because he gets a free rush when Bosa has 2 to 3 people on him. They've worked well in tandem to each other. Same thing with Bryce Huff, who, like I said, has made some impact plays. Those, it's not a coincidence that those are happening while Nick Bosa is on the field. There is attention going to Nick Bosa that then allows other people to be able to shine because they're not getting as much attention, and that won't be the case anymore. If we look at Robert Saleh, when he had to have this defense without Nick Bosa before he got the Jets job, his a major adjustment he made in the scheme was just blitzing a lot more. Now he's already been blitzing a ton this year, but you think it's going to happen even more?
Well, no, I'm saying that we have the perception that they're blitzing more because they've had success doing it, but their blitz rate is 9.4%. That's 28th in the league. They haven't.
Oh, interesting. Much. Why do I feel that way? Is it just
because they've succeeded? I mean, they send Upton Stout and he gets a sack.
Got it.
We see the blitz succeed so much. We think they're blitzing a lot, but what they're doing is blitzing in key spots. Saleh is picking the opportunity to say, here's where a blitz can work, and it does, and then we say, oh, they're blitzing a lot, but actually they're not. But now that blitz rate's going to have to go way up because the loss of Bosa is dramatic. And there's going to be more offensive line attention paid to Bryce Huff and Michael Williams, and that's going to make things harder.
I saw Guy Haberman, who I respect a lot, but he suggested that a big factor moving forward on this defense was going to be Yetur Gross-Matos in Nick Bosa's loss, which I can understand why they would want that to be part of the adjustment. But he hasn't stayed healthy at all. So
right. And Kyle has said, he said that specifically this week, that they have to wait and see how Gross-Matos develops in terms of his health.
Yeah.
Is that they would like to add more reps, but they have to be guaranteed or at least positive in their approach of saying that he can handle that extra load. I think that Sam Aquano is the one that's probably going to get more reps because he's healthy, because he's played well. And I think that Samo is going to be the guy that they're going to plug in initially and just see what happens. But even with Aquano coming in, that's not replacing Bosa. So I think that Saleh's going to need to use 5-man fronts. He's going to need to use blitzing, and he's going to need to use simulated pressure packages where an offense doesn't necessarily know where the 4 men are coming from. And it's like what Baltimore did to the Niners Christmas night a couple years ago when they just killed them. And it was with simulated pressure. I think that Saleh's going to have to use that.
Got it.
With Bosa being gone.
So your in-house adjustments, and you talked about this in your article, is going to be more CMO, potentially more Gross-Matos if he's available.
Yeah, if he can handle the reps. And they'll have to monitor that.
A lot of scheme, not changes, but additional pressure. And
it's moving assets around so that you're changing the chessboard slightly because you have to. I mean, Bosa's the tip of the spear in terms of the front 4. That's the one where everybody's going to have to deal with.
When it comes to Bosa being out there, one, Robert Saleh's creative no matter what, even when he is out there. But you do get this benefit of if you just want to rush 4, like that's going to be successful 50% of the time because Bosa's so good. Losing him, the creativity and the disguise is going to have to go up way more. And Saleh has been very calculated about where he's used his blitzes. And like you said, they've been successful, but we're going to have to take a lot more, or they are going to have to take a lot more chances with those blitzes now. It's not going to only be when it's a guaranteed to work. It's going to be, this is our only option.
Yeah. It's going to have to be the entire team where it's a rising tide lifts all boats. The team is going to have to elevate all of the collective holistic Niners. This isn't just the defense saying, okay, plug in Sam Aquano. It's everybody. You have to take up your game. The offense has to pick up their efficiency in the red zone. The defense has to be even better on first and second to force third and long. There's a lot of things that contribute to it. But I think the main adjustment will be Saleh's going to have to blitz more. And the great thing is he's got talent to do that. That Upton Stout has proven that he can be an effective blitzer. D. Winters at TCU was a designated blitzer, had a ton of sacks there. He can do that really well. Jason Pinnock in his past teams has been successful as a blitzer also. And then you've got Nick Martin, who has tremendous physical ability to rush also. And they haven't activated him yet, but I think they're going to need to use him in a blitzing role. I think he can be effective doing that as well. So they're going to have to use all of those guys and make them blitz. They're going to have to confuse an offense to not know where the four-man rush is coming from and send different people and just keep the offense guessing.
I saw that in your article, the idea of having Nick Martin be a part of it, Malik Mustafa once he gets back. It'll definitely be interesting to see, like I said, with in-house guys, how they adjust to Bosa's loss. Because Trent Williams, spoke after the game about losing Nick Bosa, and he said, obviously part of it is next man up and adjustments. But when it's a guy who makes that big of a deal, it's not necessarily next man up, it's next four men up. Like
it's the entire team up.
Yeah.
Is really the point. Everyone has to elevate because it's that big of a loss.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an all-pro, one of the top edges in the league, the key to their front foot defense.
He's actually playing well so far.
Yeah, that's the frustrating thing is it was working really well. And for Saleh, it's a lot easier to just say, send four and we're going to get there because we've got Bosa. The most effective pass rush is to send four so that you've got seven back. Now they're going to have to hybrid a little bit and figure out what they're going to do in showing looks and then what they're going to do in bringing people. But the key is third down. Third down, they were 28th in the league last year. They're 7th in the league this year in third down conversion percentage against. Last year it was 43% conversion. This year it's 33%. That's the difference that Saleh makes in having those players. So it's a big deal to make that big a jump because then your defense gets off the field. So Saleh is going to have to come up with how do we make this work?
Now, those are ways that the 49ers will be trying to replicate the production, the defensive success that they've had without Nick Bosa. But there are other things that they could do. And there's been trade rumors bigger than the, practice squad signing that they made, no offense, in King. But is it smart for the 49ers to go out and make a splash play? I think the questions that they're going to be asking themselves is really, being honest, and this is going to be a front office / Kyle Shanahan question. Are we Super Bowl contenders? Can we get to the playoffs? And if we get to the playoffs, do you think that we could stir up and do something in the playoffs? Because, like I said, they are 3-0. So part of me thinks you got to go for it. The other part of me looks at how terrible this team has performed, and I'm like, I think they're lucky to be 3-0, and it seems like a team that could be a first-round exit, and you don't necessarily want to trade away a ton of high future picks in order to be, booted in the first round. Now,
but it also depends on who you get and what you think of him going forward. For example, if they made a trade for Kayvon Thibodeau, they could see him since he's 24. They could sign him to a new deal after 2026, and he could be a fixture going forward for them.
Yeah.
So they need to make that kind of a decision. But you're right that there's two tracks in terms of the decision. Is that are we a contender now, or at least over the next 2 years, or are we on a track to be a long-term contender and we want to grow the team? If it's the latter, they're better off not making a splash trade. If it's the former, they'll make a move. And they might, as they usually do, compromise between the two. You've got Trey Hendrickson on the crawl. He probably will be available, especially since Joe Burrow went down. He's gone for 3 months. Cincinnati's going to just fall off the face of the earth now. But what are they going to ask for Trey Hendrickson, especially after what happened in the Green Bay trade with Micah Parsons? They're going to look at that and sort of leverage off of it and say, Green Bay gave up this for Micah Parsons. You better give up this for Trey Hendrickson. Hendrickson's older, but not that much older. And Cincinnati is pretty desperate. They know that they've got this asset. They're going to try to basically put Hendrickson on eBay and say, who's willing to give me the most? And in that situation, I don't think the Niners can win that. And I also think that they wouldn't want to commit themselves to what Hendrickson wants, because he's a free agent after this year. He wants at least $30 million per. And the Yorks have said they already don't like the fact that there's too many people making a whole bunch of money on this roster.
Yeah.
So I think Jed would veto Hendrickson anyway, on the perspective of, I don't want to pay somebody that much to be our second edge. So I don't think Hendrickson is viable. I think Kyle is going to say no on what trade assets you would have to give up. And I think the Niners would lose anyway on an eBay auction across the league. Somebody would give more. And Jed would also be opposed to signing him to a big deal. So you're better off just saying, yeah, Hendrickson's the best talent out there, but he's not realistic in terms of what we have to give up and what Jed York is willing to pay.
Kyle was asked in his press conference yesterday if the 49ers would be in the market to make a big splash move. And his response was pretty modest. You know, he didn't say, we're 100% going to go out and get someone. He said, we're going to assess the team and we're going to be open to making a trade if it makes sense for the other team and for us and our future, which I think is kind of what you're saying, where, yes, ideally they do want to go out and add someone with the loss of Nick Bosa, but if it's going to take a future first, a future second, multiple future picks, they're going to be more hesitant. Is that
right?
Smart team building? Part of me
I
says
think
yes.
it is. I think it is, because you don't know that you've got a Super Bowl team. I don't think they are this year. Next year, if you make the right draft investments, you'll be a contender again, provided that you replace Christian McCaffrey as your lead running back and you draft offensive tackles in the draft in the first round. Will they do that? Who knows? If they don't do that, I don't think they're a contender in 2026. But that's me. You know, I've always had that take on it. So in terms of the trades, you look at it and say, all right, who could make sense? If they want a rental, Cameron Jordan, if he wants to come back and play for a better team than New Orleans, if he used to play for Cal, so he'd be coming home, would he push to come to the Niners in a trade? If he makes that push, they'd trade him. Otherwise, the Saints won't. So I think that's pretty unlikely. The Giants with Kayvon Thibodeau, he makes perfect sense, but they don't trade players in season. They've got a history of not doing that. So that's an issue there. And then who else have you got? Miami with Jalen Phillips. But then you're adding another frequently injured player. And this is a guy who's missed over 20 games over the last 2 years. He's healthy now, but he has a severe injury history. Do you really want to do that again and add an injury risk player? Probably not. So my guess is Thibodeau is the guy that they would like to get, and it's a question of if they can offer enough to entice the Giants to do it.
Do you think that he would be successful in the 49ers scheme with Ryan?
I think so. Yeah. He doesn't have the football drive, as they put it sometimes. There are some character concerns with him.
Yeah.
There's some effort concerns with him. But I think playing for Saleh would help him. And I think playing on this defensive line would help him too.
Yeah, and have that standard. A different guy that you mentioned in your article was New Orleans Cam Jordan. Is that just an age situation why you think the 49ers Saints maybe don't want to give him up?
Cam Jordan is more about New Orleans because Jordan he's played more games than any other Saint. Yeah, he wants to retire. Yeah, he's a Hall of Fame Saint. And so I'm guessing that he wants to stay in New Orleans.
That makes sense.
That serves his legacy well to play his entire career for New Orleans. And he's been a phenomenal player. But as I said before, if he wants to win and if he wants to come home, he can. But he would have to say to the Saints, please trade me to the Niners. That's absolutely the requirement. Otherwise, there's no chance.
Got it. And you don't see that happening.
And I don't think so, no. It's in his self-interest to stay.
Okay. So Giants are the 49ers' best bet? I mean, that could be. They're kind of in turmoil right now anyways. They're 3-0. Like, I know maybe they're stubborn about wanting to give up a good player, but it's not like they're going anywhere this season. I know they're switching over quarterbacks. I feel like why not do a sale and get as much as you can?
Yeah, but now that they've just started Jackson Dart, they're going to want to see what he can do. And so they're not going to be willing to make a trade for a while. And the Niners play the Giants on the 2nd of November.
So they don't want to make an opposing team stronger.
Right.
Plus, I feel like a lot of those coaches are like coaching for their job. You know what I mean? Like, they're not necessarily trying to make the best decision for the future. They're trying to look as decent as possible right now.
Yeah, they're trying to save their job. So, and that's particularly true for the Giants. They're 0-3 and they're going nowhere. Yeah, all the Giants really have are their defensive line and a wide receiver and not much else. But you put Jackson Dart out there and see, and if they start winning games, then they're not going to be willing to deal with Thibodeau anyway. So what the Niners are going to need is for the Giants to continue to lose even though Dart is in. And then the Giants might be willing to trade, but probably not prior to the 2nd because they play the Niners then. But you still have 3 days to the deadline. They might deal Thibodeau to the Niners at that point.
Okay. That still puts the Niners in a tough position where if that is kind of what they're most looking forward to, they're going to have to win a couple games without him on the team and without Nick Bosa. But as you've described, it is possible.
They have to play 6 games before the trade deadline. Ouch. And to me, anyway, I think that they're going to struggle over the next 3. But then they're going to start winning games because the schedule gets very easy.
And this is kind of backtracking because we talked about Nick Bosa and losing him and his impact. But does it, and I think the answer is yes, but I'd like to know, like, does it impact actual wins for the loss of Nick Bosa? When you're approaching a game like Jacksonville next week, does whether or not you think the 49ers are going to win change now that Nick Bosa is injured?
No, my prediction stays the same, but well, we'll talk about that later. But Bosa is still going to – not having Bosa is never a good thing. Can they deal with it? Run defense, they don't need Nick Bosa. The run defense can still be great, and I think it will be. The problem is getting off the field on 3rd because you're not going to have enough pressure. That's where it will be felt.
I want to go into some other trades in different positions, but really quickly, I wanted to address one of the comments. Why is Martin not playing was asked. I think so far they haven't
activated him yet. I hope they do soon because I think he would be a great blitzer given his athletic skill. He's fast. He's strong. He closes well. I think he had 33 tackles for loss in 2024 at Oklahoma State.
Got it.
He would be a nice blitzer.
If you talk about not being a woman who talks about football, I'm going to ban you, obviously. So don't do that, and you're banned.
Yeah. Come on, dude.
What a weird thing to do.
You honestly want to tell me Ashley doesn't know what she's talking about? Come on. Ashley is great. She knows her stuff, always.
Thank you. And I think one of the best football analysts in the game right now is Mina Kimes. By the way, I'm not saying I'm
I agree. No, she's the best, in my opinion.
Just kind of a silly comment to write on my channel.
Come on.
Moving on from how the 49ers will necessarily address the defensive line, there's other positions on the defense that they could bolster up to make up for maybe the D-line being less strong. One of the guys that the 49ers worked out today was Shiloh Sanders. Do you think this is a good move by the 49ers? I mean, there's no harm in working out anyone, but what do you think of Shiloh?
I would love for them to add a safety. They've got the worst safety room in the league, but I don't think Shiloh Sanders is the answer. And he's got the last name, but he doesn't have the talent. He is not Dion.
Can I ask you?
They brought in a couple other safeties to look at, but I don't think they're going to sign anybody.
Got it. Can I really quickly with Shiloh, when I saw this announced by Adam Schefter, I saw a bunch of 49ers content creators and beat reporters making jokes that alluded to punching. Did he punch someone? Do you know anything about this?
I don't know. He might have. I haven't followed it closely,
Got it. Got it.
but it's entirely possible. Deion's kids can be a little volatile. So.
Yeah. Now, good for the Browns. They won the other week, so
Yeah.
Not that that's
But,
on Sanders, but
yeah, it's just I don't think he has the talent. From what I saw at Colorado, from what I've seen and heard in the NFL, no, he's not it.
A different guy that you, Tom, I saw you advocating that the 49ers could potentially bring in, and then I saw some pushback, so I'd love to hear your argument. CJ Gardner-Johnson. More recently, I saw Baker Mayfield literally look like he was going to have the most devastating injury ever. Gardner-Johnson stand on top of him to make fun of him, and miraculously that made Baker's pettiness overruled the human body and injury, and he was able to go from looking like he was about to die to jumping up and trying to have beef with Gardner-Johnson. But that's as deep as my knowledge of him goes as of right now.
Okay, well,
he was on the
Eagles. He played for Philadelphia and was a great player for them. Once he left Philadelphia, he lost his mind. And so the issue with him is he's a malcontent. Is that the reason that D'Amico cut him today is because he's just tired of his whining. CJ, really? Shut up and sit down. CJ wants to blitz more. And for the Niners,
they need
come on down. We could use that. So my thing on CJ is that, yeah, I get it. He's a malcontent. He's a terrible character, dude. I don't think there's any chance that John Lynch would sign him. Oh. That said, I would, because I think our safeties are that bad.
Got it.
And I think that beggars can't be choosers. When your safety talent is this desperate, you sign CJ. I don't think they will.
Well, what I will say is when the 49ers drafted that, or not 49ers, when the Eagles drafted Jalen Carter, something you and I gave the Eagles credit for, we said like that move was a good move for the Eagles, but for a lot of teams could have been the wrong move because they didn't have that established culture. They didn't have the respect, a long-term respected defensive coordinator. They didn't have lots of vets on their defense. This goes for a lot of teams. There was a lot of teams that I would have said drafting Jalen Carter to your team is a mistake because he needs a certain level of discipline and structure around him, coming from the coaching staff, coming from the players around him, in order for him to be successful. The Eagles were one of the rare teams out of the 32 teams that were able to provide that for him. And I'm not saying that he's perfect, but they're able to, adjust or control his outbursts as much as possible. Not saying it's perfect, but as much as possible, and reap the rewards of him being on the team when he is able to contribute and be in the right headspace due to all of that. Last year, I would have said, bad move to bring in a head case for the 49ers. But with Robert Saleh there, Fred Warner has never looked better, not only on the field, but as a leader outside of the field. I was talking last game about, when it comes to Nick Bosa, Trent Williams, those are two guys who most people think, or Nick Bosa, most people think Trent Williams, it's a guarantee, is first ballot Hall of Famers, best at their position on the 49ers at the very least. People really, really respect Bosa and Trent, and they're both team captains, but they're both they both train outside of the facility on the off season.
Well, they lead by example, guys. They're not leaders.
Yes. They leave during the bye week. Exactly what you said. For rookies to learn from them, it's learning about, it's learned by watching. Okay, what are they doing on the field? How are they training? What are they eating? How can I observe? Fred Warner does that, is able to perform, be the best, linebacker in the NFL, best at his position on the 49ers, has that example, but also embodies a team captain, meaning he stays during the offseason. He's training with the rookies. He's training with anyone here. He stays during the bye week. He's in the facility all the time, kind of taking not only just other linebackers, but teammates under his wing. So I think I would argue, at least compared to last year, if the 49ers were going to bring in a guy that could get a little headsy, they have better luck of it being successful right now. If they see how important this moment is, Nick Bosa's out. We need to make adjustments. We're 3-0. We believe in this team. We have the guys. We have the coaching staff. I could see them having that structure and standard that kind of keeps a guy like Gardner Johnson in place.
Yeah. They, like Philadelphia with Jalen Carter, they would have the environment that would allow him to succeed.
Yeah.
That said, I don't think that John Lynch
kind of breaking down right now.
Yeah, I just don't think that John Lynch would do that because he values character, and as a former safety, I think that he's going to pay even more attention in terms of what he does. And after the problems that they had last year with the linebacker, that they're better off just saying, we don't want to go down that road again. So I understand all the people that push back on me on CJ. My point is the talent is so bad you have to consider it. But we'll see. I don't think they'll do it. I don't think they'll sign Shiloh. They might add a DB at the deadline. Possibly Greg Newsome from Cleveland has been talked up. But I don't think they'll go safety. Okay. Unfortunately, because I think safety is going to be the biggest weakness in the team going forward.
Something that I thought was kind of interesting that I did want to talk about when it comes to Bosa, and we're talking about trades. And I know you've talked about giving, the 49ers in not being willing to spend money this offseason. We did get some numbers that came out from Adam Schefter, and I thought that I should mention them. I didn't mention them during the Bosa segment. But the 49ers had an injury insurance policy on Nick Bosa's contract. This is coming from Adam Schefter, and then a version of it was repeated by Matt Mayoko on NBCS. After Nick Bosa suffered his season-ending torn ACL, the 49ers will now receive $7 million in 2026 salary space because of an insurance policy they took out in the 5-year, $170 million contract extension that Bosa signed in 2023. Right. Now, $7 million isn't a lot, so I don't know
how much
leeway that gives them, but I guess it's better than nothing.
Yeah. It's more that they can add to the pile, but the limitation on free agency isn't the cap room, it's Jed York. It's how much are they willing to spend.
Got it.
So does the extra cap room mean anything? Only if the Yorks are willing to spend. So I would say that this is nice. It shows some forethought by them that they knew that Bosa was an injury risk and they put this insurance policy in place. But will they take advantage of the $7 million in cap room? As we saw this year, maybe, probably not.
I agree. We had a comment. Hopefully, it's people are not loving your CJ Gardner Johnson.
I know. Fans hate a character risk guy that's got a bad attitude. They just get that guy away from my team. That's just this automatic reaction. I understand that. I'm just saying. I'm pointing to the safeties and saying New Orleans had 3 touchdowns against the safeties. Arizona threw for third down conversions against the safeties. What do you think the next 3 teams are going to do? They're going to throw at the safeties and fry them. So do I think that they should add a talent that's better than any healthy safety on the team? Yeah. But will John Lynch take that risk? No. So you've got nothing to worry about. I'm just talking out of my ass because I hate the safety room. That's what it's about. I do not trust their safeties now. They're not good enough. Period. And I've been saying that for months.
I think that brings us into our next topic. And we've had some more specific questions about Renardo Green, about Siegel, but we can kind of address that in one general topic here. But we'll start with the defense. Not only did, the 49ers lose Nick Bosa, but they did just win a game. They have a game that, we'll talk about the Jacksonville game coming up and whether or not we think the 49ers are going to win that or not. But how do you feel through 3 games? Because I think game 1 can be a bit of a, teams are just getting their bearings underneath them. A lot of teams have new coordinators, new coaches. The Seahawks, I think, are a good example of that. They didn't look very prepared. They weren't attacking the safeties for the 49ers. So they lost week 1, but then they've looked totally dominant in the last 2 games. They actually crushed the Saints in a way that the 49ers offense was incapable of doing, which is kind of funny because you go, okay, wait, they couldn't beat the Niners, but then the Niners were neck and neck with the Saints. Sometimes the Saints look better. I think a couple receivers actually catch the ball and the Saints could have beat the 49ers, where with the Seahawks, it wasn't even, it wasn't a game. So all that to say, by week 3, I think you're starting to learn, okay, this is actually who this team is, getting the wrinkles kind of unfolded. How do you feel about this defense, taking into consideration that now they've lost Bosa? But we can start on, let's start with the safeties because you were talking about that. Normally I go D-line and then back, but we'll do the opposite. We'll go forward.
Okay. So the safeties, Pinnock and Siegel. Siegel has made some good plays, but he's also made some bad ones. And he's physically limited in that he's got 32-inch arms and you're putting him on tight ends over 6'6". That's not going to go well.
No.
So, I've got issues with it. I don't think that their safeties are good enough. I think the next 3 teams are going to target Renardo Green and the safeties specifically. And now that you don't have Bosa, you've got less of a pass rush, and you've got offensive coordinators who know exactly what they're doing, unlike Seattle, where Clint Kubiak was a moron and didn't throw at them, and that's why the Niners won that game.
Yeah.
The next 3 offensive coordinators are among the best in the league. They're not going to make that mistake. They're going to go with the safeties. They're going to go with Green. So that's a problem. Evaluating the secondary, Diamado Lenore has been superb. He's been great. And teams aren't throwing to him as a result. But the rest of the secondary is an issue. And part of the reason the secondary didn't get fried is because they had Nick Bosa and they had that 45% pressure rate. Now that pressure rate goes to 28, now what's going to happen to that secondary? That's a worry.
I was trying to find a stat. I do think that Demo has had a large amount of missed tackles. Is it Demo?
Yeah, he's had some.
Got it. So he's
part of that is that, you also need reps. And because teams haven't thrown at him and Demo is not necessarily in position to make a play when he has a chance to do it, sometimes he might not get exactly the right angle or the right technique. So I think it's just a question of he needs to have enough tackles over the course of the season to get his technique.
Got it. And then we see Renardo Green. He's had some horrific plays. He's also done, decently. I have more hope in Upton Stout, although Upton has also made bad plays. I feel like his positive plays have been more impactful and show a little bit more hope for how he can develop since he's a little bit younger. How do you feel about those two? They've obviously been picked on the most, I feel like, out of anyone in the secondary.
Yeah, teams have been picking on Stout, but the thing that I love most about him is his lack of memory, that he's just next play. And he'll have some bad plays, and then he'll come up and make a great one. I mean, he made the game-saving play of that strip on Zay Jones. Jones caught the ball, comes down with it, and then Stout strips it. And that set up the Niners to win the game. And so Stout making a play that essentially wins the game or is a big contributing factor, that's a great thing from a rookie. It gives him a lot to build on. So I like what Stout is doing. He's still going to get beat now and then, but he's a work in progress. He'll continue to get better week to week.
Yeah. Okay. Linebackers. Like I said, I think Fred Warner is playing quite literally the best football of his life, which is, so weird to say because he's so incredible. And I feel
given
like
his career,
he's like and knock on so much wood, because I kind of felt like he was on this trajectory last year before getting injured. Obviously, he didn't miss time and continue to play, but his production, although still elite, was not, top Fred Warner of the line. He could make a case to be the defensive player of the year. I feel like it's hard because
it's hard for a linebacker to get it, but Fred has played so well that I think he's part of the conversation. He might not win the award, but he'll finish in the top 3 in the voting, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Might be something like that. But I agree, and I've written in my articles twice now that I think Fred is on a DPOY path, that he's
Tom,
playing that level of football. And to do that from linebacker is phenomenal.
when I watch this 49ers team, Nick Bosa is a huge loss. Fred Warner is the heartbeat, the soul, the playmaker of the team. Fred Warner is so impactful in every play. Like, not even just in every win, in every play. He is, just all over the field. His coverage, his tackling, like his physicality. It's so unbelievable to watch him. And when you're watching the 49ers, in 2023, anyone who watched the 49ers, they were like, Christian McCaffrey is the MVP. Like, when you're watching him, you cannot tell the story of the 49ers without Christian McCaffrey. Like, he is making that offense run. That is, like, Fred Warner is making that defense run. Robert Saleh is scheming up. He's incredible. The standard, the energy that energy is really important. That swarm mentality, the go all out. Obviously, Saleh has brought that, but it is so, obvious that Fred Warner is the prime example, and him and Robert Saleh are just this match made in heaven, and where Robert Saleh is this is how I want my defense executed. Fred Warner does it and teaches it, and then everyone else follows and just tries to be in the vicinity of how good he is.
He's that good.
Yeah.
Is that he inspires everybody to elevate their game. Fred is an extension of Saleh on the field. He's the brains, the heart, the soul of the defense. And playing at this level, we're lucky as Niner fans that we've got a chance to see some of these kinds of players over the years.
Yeah.
That we got a chance to see Ronnie Lott. We got a chance to see Montana and Steve Young and Jerry Rice.
Actual greatness.
Yeah, where you see players where this is a Hall of Famer. And when you identify a guy as a Hall of Famer and he's still in his peak, it's incredible to watch. It's just a joy to see Fred play and just say, my God, he's great. And he's also the team leader on and off the field. So, Fred is arguably the most valuable Niner in terms of his total value to the organization. And he's having an amazing year. I just hope he can stay healthy and continue it so that he has a chance to be named Defensive Player of the Year. He's earned that. Yeah. His play has been at that level.
I completely agree, Tom. Something really smart you said when we first started streaming, and you've repeated it around draft time for the last 2 years, is kind of coming out of college, these linebackers need more time. Unlike a wide receiver who you kind of expect will be able to come, within by week 2, week 3, you expect that they're going to know enough to be able to make a large impact. Linebackers coming out of college, the way the game is played differently, takes 2 to 3 years. D Winters,
D Winters,
looks fantastic.
Yeah, and what's the time frame? 3 years.
Yeah,
and that's what it takes. That's the arc for linebacker. You start scratching the surface in year 2, and then you mature to an impact ball player in year 3, and that's what D Winters has been. And thank God, because he's been an important piece for this defense.
Yes. My brain blanked for 1 second. Defensive line. Nick Bosa's not there. Michael Williams. And once again, we're going to have to adjust our expectations now that Nick isn't there. Right. But Michael Williams, Bryce Huff, I felt like both of them have made a lot of impactful plays. What is your how have you felt about the Niners D-line so far? And then, maybe a little bit, how do you feel they'll play against Jacksonville?
Okay, well, I love what I'm seeing from Michael. He had a great quote in an interview. I forget exactly when, but he said that because he's starting to learn the system now, he's playing at a faster speed. And you see that on the field. You see him where game 1 against Seattle, he was somewhat hesitant. There would be a pause and then action. And now it's just off the line and go. And when you're that talented of an athlete, when you're that powerful, if you have that extra 1/10 of a second, it makes all the difference in how much impact you can have in the game. So as he continues to learn the system, he's going to get even faster. And
Tom's on a roll. They're taking him out. It's those bad guys coming for you. Do you guys hear the sirens that were on the other side of Tom for a little while? People are agreeing that Fred Warner deserves to be Defensive Player of the Year. Everyone like and subscribe. I really appreciate that. I'm glad we have Fred Warner. He's the real team leader. I completely agree. John Deere, I'm banning you, of course. Okay. Do you guys think that Tom's going to come back? Or do we think that I'm going to give Tom an opportunity to come back? I'm going to move us a little bit towards the fact that the 49ers are playing Jacksonville. So right now, Trevor Lawrence is playing horribly, but the Jacksonville Jaguars are winning games. So that's going to be interesting. He'll be back. I agree. I think that the 49ers have an opportunity. Tom has entered the stage. How you doing, Tom? You were on a roll and they kicked you.
Sorry about that.
They thought you were spitting too much game.
Okay. I overloaded. Yeah, so where are we?
Defensive line, Jaguars.
So continuing on the D-line, I'm surprised by how well Bryce Huff has played. I think he's been good. Alfred Collins, the first couple of weeks, was just lost. He started to make plays. He's starting to get it. He's starting to play with a lower pad level. So I think that he'll eventually come around. He'll be good. But it's going to take some time. He's going to be that player that flashes 3 or 4 plays in a game. And you say, wow, Alfred Collins. But then you look at the balance of the rest of the plays he made, and they're not that great. So I think he's going to be that kind of a player for the next 4 or 5 games. And after he gets out of that phase, if he's learned enough, he'll be good. Defensive line against the Jaguars. Here's one of the problems in that game. Jacksonville is second in the league in pass protection. They've only given up 1 sack per game. They're a very good pass protecting line.
Trevor Lawrence does not look good, in my opinion, though.
Yeah. Okay. Now, why is that?
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Let me look.
He actually has a good coach, good pass protection.
Okay. So here's the thing.
Tell me.
Trevor Lawrence, a third of his incompletions are drops. 12% of his passes are drops. 19% of his passes in the red zone are drops.
That's insane.
That's how
so
bad.
Frustrating. Poor guy.
That's why his stats suck. Because his receivers really suck. I mean,
honestly, I feel like Tyler was
frying pan hands. It's just opposable thumbs sold separately. They're that bad. It's the curse of Trent Baalke, where it's just no wide receivers. Even though he's gone from Jacksonville, the wide receiver curse remains. Those guys drop everything. Yeah. And that's going to be one of the big keys to the game. If their receivers catch the ball, Niners lose. If they drop the ball, Niners win.
I mean, that was kind of the story in the Cardinals game.
That's what's going on.
That was kind of the story in the Cardinals game.
Right. And New Orleans.
Yeah. There was tons of – you're right, and in New Orleans. I was really unimpressed by the Cardinals wide receivers. I don't know if you're – I know we're
Marvin Harrison Jr. has been a bust, and that's shocking.
Yeah, Ricky
Pearsall was so great at Ohio State, and now it's just okay. Ricky Pearsall looks better than him right now. Yeah, Ricky Pearsall looks like he's going to have a much better NFL career than Marvin Harrison Jr. Okay. None of us would have predicted that.
That drop that was like straight in his hands, in his body.
Yeah, dude. Come on. Why are you trying to make a body catch on a pass that's thrown straight to your hands and your chest? I mean, that tells me everything. Yeah. My first rule of looking at a receiver, does he make the catch with his hands? Because guys that don't end up being like Marvin Harrison Jr. or, like the guy that the Niners drafted who had no hands, the speed guy. I forget his name now. But why did he fail? Because he doesn't catch the ball with his hands. Why does Ricky Pearsall succeed? Catches the ball with his hands. He had that amazing catch where the ball was beyond him and he still caught the back end of the football. That was a great catch by
him. Someone asked me, we made Marvin Harrison Jr. cry. Someone said, Badass said,
he made his team cry when he dropped that.
I could not believe that. It sucks. I mean, Kyler Murray has these times where he can look like a top 10 quarterback. And then obviously he's just like very unsuccessful. And I feel like if you're the 49ers, I wouldn't understand like what someone said. You can't send me a super chat. Why? Hold on. Everything is pausing because I want to make sure I want it to be on. It says that my monetization is on, so that's weird. Try again. But thank you so much. Moving away from this really quickly.
So
what I was going to say.
Well, from the chat, can they go 7-0?
No.
Just flat out.
Especially with the loss of Bosa. I wanted to look at the actual games. I think it's possible that the 49ers can beat the Jags. Now
they can. It's just a question of can they execute and what's their plan for life after Bosa. I'm
going to bet that I'm predicting the 49ers beat the Jaguars. That was my prediction going into this season. It's scary to make that prediction. It was mine too. Yeah. It's scary to say that with the fact that the offense has not. I mean, we've talked for 50 minutes about how the defense can adjust, what guys they can bring in, what guys they can utilize that are on their team, the adjustments Robert Saleh can make scheme-wise. What the 49ers are actually going to need to do at some point is score points on offense. They can't. Yeah. They can't. They have to get better.
They have to get better in the red zone.
They can't.
And they have to get away from the CMC easy button. Yeah. Christian McCaffrey had 32 of the 62 plays. You can't do that, Kyle. He'll break. So that has to be part of it. McCaffrey in the red zone, 4 carries, 2 yards. Stop it. I know Christian wants touchdowns so that he can get his next extension, but he's not capable of getting into the end zone. No. He has lost a step. And here's the stat. There's a lot of people that go after this where they debate back and forth. It's the offensive line. McCaffrey's fine. Here's the stat. 2023 is Offensive Player of the Year season. 2.2 yards after carry, after contact.
He's getting
2.2. This year, 0.5.
You can see that on the film.
That's the proof that his legs are not there. You can also say 2023, 72-yard run, 65-yard run. 2024, 2025, what's his longest run? 19 yards. He's lost a step, folks. It shows in the running game. And he can't get carries in the red zone because he'll just get stuffed. 4 carries, 2 yards. That says everything. So they need to have either Brian Robinson or, my preference, Jordan James, to get those red zone running carries. They need somebody that can move defenders. They need somebody with power and speed.
I was trying to look. Jose Sanchez, who writes for SI like you did, he talked about something called run stuff rate, which PFF ranks.
That's the defense. Yeah.
Yes.
The defense is very good. I think they're, second in run stuff rate in the league. And so that's stopping a team where it's no gain or a loss. And to do that 24% of the snaps is really impressive.
Well, Jose was he was referencing it in relation to what you were just talking about with Christian McCaffrey getting stuffed at the line. And 49ers run game is very unsuccessful. It ranks 28th in runs that get stopped at the line or before the line of scrimmage. 28 out of 32 teams is horrible.
Yeah, it's not good. They can't run up the middle. They're getting like 1.5 yards per carry up the middle. They're doing about 4 going wide. But the problem is why the Niners are so low in rushing, just in terms of just total rushing offense. 19 yards is the longest run. It was Brian Robinson against Arizona. So they're getting no explosives, none. Part of that is the running backs. Part of that's the offensive line.
Offensive line, running backs. Also, I would say coaching. People in the chat accurately said Kyle deserves some credit for a good 2-minute drill offense at the end of the game last week, which I agree. But where I would also say I agree with Papa J is right now Christian McCaffrey is getting the ball over 50% of the time of anyone on offense, whether that's throwing to him or handing him it to run. So, yes, opposing defenses absolutely know he's going to get the ball. The 49ers last week didn't decide to spread the ball around until the very end of the fourth quarter. And by the way, it was successful. So, yeah, I think Tom and I have said for a long time when they got rid of Jordan Mason, who did great for the Vikings last week, we said they shouldn't do that because they need a guy in the run game that complements Christian McCaffrey, especially as he gets older, has these injuries, is going to lose a step. He still has great hands, and when you are utilizing him in the run game, what he can do best is outside zone, bumping it out. They need someone who can get the tough yards down the middle, break tackles, take that physical toll. That's not that, that way Christian McCaffrey doesn't have to do that and it doesn't wear him down. And also he can be, healthy later on in the year. They decided to move off a guy who could do that. Brian Robinson, so far, they haven't trusted to do that. So yeah, Papa J, I would say part of it is the fact that defenses know what's coming. And for some reason, Kyle is not spreading the ball around more. And the one time
part of that is not having,
it worked.
Yeah. Part of that of not spreading the ball is weapons. So it's going to help them a lot in this game. They get DeMarcus Robinson back.
Yes.
And Papa J said, CMC is targeted because defenses know that he's getting the ball. And that's true. But at the same time, yards after contact, this is after the blocks have been made, somebody is on Christian. 2023, 2.2, 2025, 0.5. That's solely on Christian. And that, to me, proves that he's lost his step. Now, you can still point to the offensive line hasn't been good. True. He hasn't had Ayuk as a blocker, as a receiver. True. He hasn't had Jennings fully healthy yet as a blocker. True. Hasn't had Kittle. True. So all those should make their running game better once all those guys come back. But Christian is inherently limited in that he has lost a step. He's still a great receiver. He leads the team in receptions, 25. But as a runner, they need to break it up. They need to spread the wealth.
I completely agree. I think multiple things can be true. Like, these things are not mutually exclusive. So yes, I think defenses are keying on Christian McCaffrey, and as they get more guys back, that'll hopefully, not only open up the offensive game because there's more guys to throw to, but more guys for defenses to focus on. The offensive line is shit, as we can tell, because literally both quarterbacks have been injured in 3 games. So. Yeah.
Part of it on the offensive line, part of it on the line is that Connor Colby and Dominic Pooney have both been recovering from injuries. I don't think they're fully healthy. Yeah. Colby had a bad game, and he was playing on an injured groin, and I think that affected him a lot. So I think that's part of it, but part of it also is Jake Brendel's fully healthy, and he's doing nothing. That's the problem. Is that they're getting nothing. They're getting nothing from center.
There was a center that they could have gotten, Tom.
Yeah, you think there's somebody they could have signed, Ashley? Who'd you think of? Did you mention somebody?
Never gonna let that go. Never gonna let it go.
No, I always told you fantasy because they weren't gonna do it and they didn't.
I know, you knew right away. You had no hope.
Zero.
I get optimistic and then let down. Brendel. Still not great.
Yep. They need to get a center in the next draft. I think they're going to take a left tackle in the first, and they might have to take a center in the third.
Yeah. Now, what I really quickly, just to finish off my point, excellent points to why the 49ers offense is not having success. Like, I agree. All of these things I think are true. And to support our previous choice, or our previous opinion, Chris McCaffrey has still lost a step because in 2023, although they weren't missing all these guys and the offensive line has been bad forever. So I think that is kind of the same. But although Trent Williams has maybe taken a step back, but even though the 49ers had a lot of good players, they were still just giving the ball to Christian McCaffrey on every single play because it was such an easy, guaranteed, 15 yards. He was going to break tackles. Right. So like I said, I want to be fair. Yes, there's reasons that it isn't being successful, and a lot of those don't have to do with Christian McCaffrey. Also, though, Christian McCaffrey is older and coming off some major injuries and has lost a step because there's been times in his career where he has been treated like a workhorse and been more successful.
Right. Yeah, it's just his age and the injuries have caught up, and Kyle needs to adjust to that and hasn't. Thank you, Civic Kid. Appreciate it. So, yeah, it's Kyle has to move off of it. And Christian McCaffrey at this point has 77 touches in 3 games. That's a Niner record.
It's not sustainable.
Right, exactly my point. And he's on pace to have 436 touches for the year. There's no way that he's going to stay healthy. And so Kyle has to realize that he needs to dial it back. Now that Robinson is back, I think that'll help. I think that CMC will get fewer touches and targets in the passing game, and that'll take his targets down some. But his carries need to go down too. That, especially in the red zone, can't be Christian. It's got to be Robinson or Jordan James. Because Christian proved that he can't do that now.
Yeah, and it could be successful because as everyone on the chat and all fans watching know, the ball's going to go to Christian. The ball's going to go to Christian. The opposing defense feels the same way. So actually, even if Kyle feels like Christian is the better player, just the element of surprise that it's not to Christian might help them be more successful. So they need to at least try.
Yeah, well, look at the touchdown. Play fake, handoff to CMC, throw to Juice wide open in the end zone. I mean, the entire defense bought the handoff to CMC because why wouldn't they? Basically. So, yeah, Kyle needs to diversify. But as EB points out in the chat, this is a long-term issue and Kyle isn't going to learn. As I've always said, and as Julie pointed out in the chat, Kyle is addicted to the easy button. CMC, easy, easy, easy. You can do that for a while. You can't do that long-term. He'll break. And especially after he already broke last year, you've got to learn. You've got to adjust. And Kyle isn't. And part of the reason they're not as successful in the red zone is because of this. Part of the reason that their offense isn't scoring as much is this as well. He has to trust more players. And fortunately, those players are coming back. So Robinson will be one of them. Kittle by week 6. Ayuk, 6 to 8, somewhere in there. And getting Juwan Jennings back will also help. So once they get their full complement of weapons, I think that CMC's touches will finally go down because they'll have to. Because otherwise he'll break. And if they want to go in the playoffs and do anything, they need a healthy Christian McCaffrey. You have to load manage him over the course of the season. Kyle won't, but he better learn. Because otherwise McCaffrey will get hurt. And who knows what you get after he comes back from injury.
Yeah. I have a couple of chats that I want to read and then a final chat that's going to be our question/final topic. Let me ask you all a question. Is the offensive line worse this year? Maybe that can explain why Christian McCaffrey isn't doing well. What I would say is back to my previous comment, not mutually exclusive. I think the offensive line is doing badly, and that is contributing to Christian McCaffrey doing poorly. Also, Christian McCaffrey is older and coming off 2 very severe injuries, and that is also contributing to his more poor performance. Both of those are both factors.
Right.
Doesn't have to be one or the other.
It's both, not one or the other.
Yes.
And they have to deal with that. So on the offensive line, is it better or worse? Right now, it's worse. Trent came in out of shape, and he's playing in the games to get in shape. He's getting in shape pretty quickly. He had a pretty good game last week. I think he'll continue to get better. As I mentioned earlier, I think that Pooney and Connor Colby will get better as they get healthier. It's tough to play in a bad groin. I think that was the factor for him. So as they both get healthy, they'll be a better team in the line. Trent will be better. Both guards will be better. And McKivitz has played pretty well this year. He's had a pretty good season. It's Brendel that's really the core problem long term, is that he's just not good enough. But they don't have an option. Matt Hennessy is not going to replace him in the starting lineup. So
yeah,
it is what it is. The
question, Badass has sent a couple chats basically saying he predicts that the 49ers are going to go 7-0. He is asking because a lot of people in the chat are disagreeing that they're going to go 7-0. He's asking, out of those games, which ones do we think the 49ers will lose? So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Jags. But
yeah, let's do our Jags picks now and talk about the game.
I think that the 49ers are going to beat the Jaguars. I think much like the first 3 games, it'll be a little bit of a lower scoring game. I want to say low 20s for both teams, maybe something like 21-24 49ers. And that would be impressive because the 49ers offense has not been able to score yet. I'm hoping with the loss of Nick Bosa, with the fact that Christian McCaffrey continues to get stumped, that they spread the ball out a little bit more. I don't know if Brock Purdy will be back this
He should be. He should.
Kyle Shanahan said that they're going to evaluate him tomorrow as their first practice. They have the league off. Monday, they always take off. Like the players go in, but they don't do a full practice. They do like weightlifting and rehab. Monday is a league day off. Wednesday's the first day they go back and really start practicing. So Kyle said that's when Brock Purdy will be evaluated. Also, same thing with Mac Jones, because he re-aggravated that PCL leg injury. He said it wasn't a big enough deal to like keep him out, but I imagine they will watch both quarterbacks, see how they feel, see what the risk of re-injury is for Brock Purdy. The fact that they were considering having him elevated last week tells me he's probably going to play this week. I think the 49ers are going to beat the Jaguars. That would be I'm just going to go and answer his question real quick.
Yeah,
that would be 4-0. I think the 49ers are going to lose to the Rams. That is my hot take. It's a short week. Mm-hmm. The Rams have looked pretty good. I mean, I thought they would have won last week if it wasn't for, I think they had like 2 blocked field goals. I think the Rams are a good team. The Bucs are going to be a good competition. I don't know which one will win. The Bucs, they barely lost last year. And I think at that point last year, the 49ers team was better than the 49ers team this year, especially with the loss of Nick Bosa. But I'm not entirely sure. I could see them winning that Bucs game. So right now I have them just with that Rams loss. I think they'll beat the Falcons, and I think they'll beat the Texans. So I'm really optimistic. I lean
you've
towards
got 6-1.
And that's what I'm going to go with. Maybe more realistic is to say that they'll lose to Tampa, both of those losses. I think they'll either lose to the Rams or Tampa. Might be more realistic to say they'll lose to both. But I'm going to say they're going to lose to one of those. That's my prediction.
Okay.
But if they lost to both, I wouldn't. I'm just being a fan.
Yeah, no. And that's what you've always been, and that's great. It's cool. I'm the jaded pessimist.
That's never voted well.
You're the fan optimist. Yeah, so that's fine. We balance each other out. So what's going to happen here? So first, Jacksonville. They aren't as bad as they were last year at all.
No.
8th in total offense, 4th in running, 1st in turnover margin, +5, 2nd in offensive line pass pro, and the best in the league at interceptions with 7 in 3 games. So factor all that in, factor in the drops, and say, all right, if we have the Jacksonville offense working out this week specifically to say we've got to deal with these drops. And I'm expecting they'll get better. They won't eliminate the problem, but it won't be as bad as it has been. I think that's a realistic expectation. If they do that, then here's the problem for the Niners. On defense, you're going up against the 2nd best offensive line and pass pro in the league. They're not going to give up sacks and pressures. And the Niners don't have Bosa. And the Niners have Green and those safeties. So and Jacksonville has Liam Cohen, one of the best offensive coordinators in the league, who is no Clint Kubiak.
Their plus is already our weakness, is what you're saying. So it can definitely be exploited.
In every sense, is that our weaknesses are compounded because of the matchup.
Got it.
Without Bosa, we can't rush the passer, and they're great at protecting the passer. Big problem. And then you combine an offensive coordinator who knows exactly what he's doing. Clint Kubiak didn't know enough to even throw at the safeties. Cohen will target the safeties and Renardo Green, and Trevor Lawrence will have all day to throw. Boom, boom, boom. So I think that they're going to get their fair share of decent throws, burning the weaknesses in the Niners secondary. On offense, I think the Niners can be okay, provided that they can score touchdowns in the red zone. But if Kyle does Kyle, if Kyle keeps giving the ball to Christian McCaffrey, 4 carries, 2 yards, it's Eddie Pinheiro time. And so what I think is going to happen is that Jacksonville will drop the ball less. Liam Cohen will know exactly what he's doing and target the secondary in Green and fry them. And Jacksonville wins. I've got Jacksonville 27-23. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the first loss. Then we have the rest that he asked about. What about the 7 games? Rams, that's a loss. Rams are a much better team than the Niners right now. Tampa, that's a loss. They get Tristan Wirfs back this week. All-pro left tackle, all-world left tackle. They also get their wide receiver back. And so they're going to be at full strength. And the Niners aren't going to be able to keep score with what Tampa can do. Even with the Niner defense without Bosa is going to give up more third down conversions and more points. So I think Tampa outscores the Niners. So I think the Niners, unfortunately, lose their next 3. Ouch. Then they go up against Atlanta. Atlanta's terrible. They win that. Houston, they beat Houston. Houston is a lot of problems on the offensive line. That's going to help the Niners get home on CJ, and they should be able to win that game. So I've got them at 5-3 after all those games are done, but I have them losing the next 3 because they're going up against offensive coordinators that know exactly what they're doing and quarterbacks that are capable of executing it. And the Niners don't have Bosa when they need him most, and that secondary is going to be even more exposed. It doesn't add up well. It's just it compounds their weakness with who they're playing.
I feel like you made excellent case. Like if things go exactly how you said, to me that's very realistic. You made an excellent case. My vision of the 49ers winning relies a lot on the other teams being bad. I'm seeing some chats about all we have to do is make it to the playoffs, whatever.
Yeah, and I have them making the playoffs.
Which I agree, but what I want to say is even with my optimistic, so far, this is not a playoff contending team to me. Not even Super Bowl contending.
Oh, it's not a contender.
When I'm predicting wins, I'm thinking the other team is bad and the 49ers can be just a little bit better. I haven't seen anything so far through 3 games on offense that's made me feel like this is a good team. We have some comments that are saying all they have to do is get the run game going. And my response to that would be they haven't been able to do that in 3 weeks. Do I hope they can?
I don't see how they can get the run game going given that Christian has lost a step. That's the problem. There's an inherent limitation on the run game success. But the passing game will get better. If they get Robinson back, that's really going to help.
Yeah, that'll be exciting to watch.
And then Kittle will get back in week 6, is my take. I don't want him to go to Tampa, fly cross-country in a plane on a bad leg. Just don't do that. But
you and I talked about that.
His competitiveness is so great that I think that if Kittle can play, he's going to tell Kyle, I'm playing. And I think that Kittle will go. And I think it's a mistake. I think the risk of re-injury is too high when you fly across the country in a competition.
Yeah, I think wait till you're back home, right? That's what I would.
Yeah, because then you've got Atlanta at home as the next game. That's the perfect time for him to come back.
I hope that that's what he does, and I agree with you that if he can go sooner, I feel like he will want to go sooner, and Kyle is not smart enough to tell him no. But I'm crossing my fingers that they are. It's so interesting because we saw them be smart with Ricky Pearsall, although it was the off season, so maybe they felt like they had more room. Because we know that they can do that because they did it with him. They really slow rolled him. But then we see other players like Chris McCaffrey, for example, and it's it's balls to the walls 100%, no regard for any injury that they've had in the past. So we'll see how they handle Kittle. I wanted to answer, someone asked about Malik Mustafa. Kyle has not specifically talked about Mustafa, but when he refers to Brandon Ayuk or Mustafa, whether he's asked about either of them, he always goes, when it comes to the guys with ACLs, which is Malik and Brandon Ayuk, this is prior to Nick Bosa, this is earlier when he was asked about it, he has always said in between week 6 and week 10. So that is the general timeline to answer. We just got a question about that. So he hasn't been recently asked about it. Maybe that'll be a question I can ask some of the people on the beat to ask tomorrow, or Robert Saleh on Thursday. That's a good updated question. But our general timeline is not within the next couple games anyways.
Right. Yeah, probably not. What I've heard is 6 to 8, and it depends on just how they progress and how they look. All the reports have said that Ayuk looks good, that he's ahead of schedule in his recovery. So I think the 6 to 10 would be closer to the 6 than the 10 for Brandon. For Mustafa, I haven't heard anything. So I don't know. But ACL for a safety, I would guess 8 or 9. But once they get Mustafa back, that's going to be huge because he takes one of the bad safeties off the field.
Yeah. I think that's it for today. To be honest, I really have to pee, so I'm gonna hush us down. Someone said no need to rush. I agree. I mean, we do want them back, but we want people to be back healthy and ready to go, so there's not risk of re-injury.
And it's going to be important to close the season well, because that's when the defense is going to rise up to a higher level, and that's when the offense should be able to execute at a higher level as well. So you want to ride that momentum into the season. I've gone through and predicted the games again, saying, okay, no Bosa, and based on what we know of the opposition, I've got the Niners at 11-6. They make the wild card, and then they go up against Green Bay in the wild card round and lose. That's my projection.
Got it. I have another comment from Cliff saying that he's trying to send a super chat but can't. I checked my monetization and it says it's on, Cliff, so I really appreciate it. Maybe you can catch me next stream or after I end the stream. There's always an option to send a comment with a super chat attached, and I can always read that on my next stream. But I tried to read your chats anyways because I totally believe that you were trying to, and I like to prioritize people that send in the super chats and make sure I definitely read their comments. But I always also like to go through the chat normally because you guys are keeping along with our topics and everything. So I really appreciate everyone who was.
Your dad has a great comment. I'd like us to leave on that.
Which one?
Your dad.
My dad. We have a huge problem on this team that will keep us from making any real noise. It's our secondary and offensive line. A good coach will game plan for this. And yeah, eat us alive. That's kind of what Tom is predicting with the next 3 games. And I think that's what he assumed the Seahawks would do, and maybe what the Seahawks will do when the 49ers match up again. Week 1 is just one of those things where it's kind of fluky. But yeah, I've yet to see a team that is completely strategized for the 49ers' weaknesses. And as the season goes on, game plans get much more specific the more tape that you put out.
Exactly right.
We're already seeing that with guys like Pooney and stuff. I know Pooney's also injured, but we're already kind of seeing where these weaknesses have obviously been showing themselves, because you see coaches going after certain players and you're like, all right, they're showing something that's making the opposing team do that. So
right.
Yeah. I really appreciate you guys all. Thank you everyone who's in the chat. I saw some people who said they were new and subscribing. Cliffs, Black Bear, this guy. Really appreciate you guys. I feel like you're a little bit new here. And then Papa J, obviously, thank you for all my regular people. Or all our regular people. Really appreciate it, and always love doing these streams with Tom. Fun to talk about breaking news. Unfortunate to talk about injuries, but hopefully we did a good job at letting you guys know strategies that the 49ers should employ in order to try to keep some of the hope alive this season. Love you guys and hope you have a good Tuesday. And thank you so much, Tom. Make sure that you follow Tom Jensen on Twitter. It's NinerCast. He put out, excellent preview articles before the Cardinals, breakdowns after the Cardinals, and then everything that had to do with Nick Bosa, in-house, out-of-house. Like, that's literally the exact wording taken from Tom's article. So if you want more specifics or just to be able to look at the things that we were talking about with your eyes instead of just your ears, make sure that you go check out those articles. They're always great. So thank you so much, Tom, for those. Because
I've got 2 articles coming up this week soon. One is going to be the projection after losing Bosa.
Okay.
That'll be up tomorrow. And then the game preview for Jacksonville.
Love it. I'm excited and I'm looking forward to that. I'll be going live after practice tomorrow to give any injury updates that we have, and then previewing some more of the Jags game, going live after the Jags. Really appreciate it. I'm excited to be back in the Bay for a little bit. Thank you guys so much. Make sure to like and subscribe. Bye.